I wanted Kangaroo Island to be something. I was focusing on regional development. I really wanted Kangaroo Island to be, seen as one of the best grape growing regions of the world. And I also wanted to be something. So it was my ego definitely coming into play. So all the pressure was coming it was internal. It's from me, but I wanted to be the best. And that caught up with me eventually.
Welcome to Series 3 of Healthy Minds, Healthy Vines, a podcast proudly developed by the Wine Grape Council of South Australia and hosted by Callum McPherson and Nick Ryan. I'm Lisa Bonnier, CEO of the Council, and I'm delighted to bring you this series. The Wine Grape Council of South Australia represents our state's independent wine grape growers. We aim to provide growers with timely support and effective representation through advocacy, collaboration, and knowledge building. South Australia is home to just over half of Australia's vineyard area, and it's the diversity of our independent growers, their stories, challenges, and opportunities that shows just how important connection is in grape growing. In this new series, we bring you 10 unique conversations, sharing a rich mix of views, experiences, knowledge, and questions from across our grape and wine community. From personal journeys to practical insights, each episode is designed to spark thought, build connection, and support well-being in our industry. So wherever you're listening, in the vineyard, on the road, or at home, we invite you to tune in and be part of building healthy minds and healthy vines together.
Nick Dugmore is the driving force behind Stoke Wines, writing a new chapter for Australian viticulture on Kangaroo Island. A young gun of wine winner, Nick brings a thoughtful approach to regenerative farming and a passion for the connection to people and place that makes wine special. Receiving a shock stage 3 bowel cancer diagnosis at 39, Nick's had a major rethink on everything from his relationship with alcohol to how we look after the land, our health and each other. Not one to shy away from the tough conversations, he's now putting his voice out there, co-hosting the Power of Awareness podcast to help inform and inspire people living with cancer. He's passionate, determined and not afraid to call for change where it's needed. If you ask him, he'll tell you he loves wine even more since cancer for the connection and joy it brings when we treat it and ourselves with respect. Here's Nick.
Dougie, how did your journey in wine begin?
I just didn't do very well at school, actually. I was just there
Join the club.
Yeah, I was just there to socialise, pretty much. I had a lot of fun there, but my first preference for uni was physiotherapy, and I think fourth was wine marketing, and that's what I got into. Yeah,
I would love to know how many people who actually did wine marketing ever had it as a first preference. I think everyone I ever know that did the wine marketing degree was, that's my fallback.
And definitely they all like to socialise. Yeah. Because then when you get there, you're pretty much just drunk for 3 years.
There is a theme.
Yeah. Most people fail half the subjects in the first year and then... Yeah.
So was the drinking the priority?
I think anybody at that age probably, and that generation, heavy drinkers. I think these days it seems like people are a lot healthier, a bit better relationship with alcohol. But yeah, it was. But also... Yeah, we were living in Sydney at the time and I moved back to Adelaide and went to university, did wine marketing, and I had a ball. It was incredible. And then after that, I went and started to do vintages because if I was going to talk the talk, I wanted to be able to walk the walk, so get a bit of a insight into the making side of things, and did vintages, saved the money, went traveling, and I just got hooked on that pretty much. And I was loving not so much the winemaking side of things, but just the nature of vintage, the camaraderie and the high intensity and the big hours and all those things. And just the friendships that you develop, I think is it's a bit underrated or just not spoken about very much, is that camaraderie that you form when doing a vintage and doing vintages overseas as well. And yes, I just kept traveling around doing vintages and eventually, I think I'd done 12 or 14 vintages. And I eventually went back to uni because 27, I thought I better start focusing on something. And I'd done so much winemaking that it was the obvious choice. But I'd also discovered Kangaroo Island, which I loved. And then I went back to university and did winemaking.
Do you reckon going back, having all that experience under the belt and then going back and getting the qualification, Did you shape the qualification, or did the qualification shape you?
Oh, it was so much better when I went back, because actually I'd found what I wanted to do, which was make wine.
Yep.
I was very passionate about it, and the information that I was learning just sunk in. So my first year of wine marketing, I got between 50 and 55% pretty much for every subject, except business data analysis, which I failed. I went to the wrong spot for the exam as well. That's my excuse anyway.
Yeah, right. You would have nailed it otherwise.
Yeah. But then going back and doing winemaking, it just all made sense. I'd done it a lot. I think it should be a prerequisite for when I went back and did winemaking, there were 150 students, and there's no way there's that many jobs.
No.
There's too many people graduating winemaking. They should probably, I think, weed a lot of people out by getting them to go and shovel shit for a vintage.
Yeah.
Because then you go out, you learn all this wine science, and then you go out and you realize what being a winemaker really is all about.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's working very hard, and it's relationships.
That's a lot of degrees as well. I studied journalism at uni, and it wasn't very much like walking down the street looking for CCTV and going to whoever got stabbed the night before. It wasn't much like writing essays in lecture theatres and that sort of thing. So the hands-on experience is always pretty different to the theoretical, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the wine marketing degrees before social media as well. So that's pretty much a waste of money. Not that I've paid a cent of it off yet.
Changed a bit.
Still burdened with the debt.
Changed a bit since then.
I'm glad that I went through the marketing side of things all the way through making to growing, because a lot of people are born into it, and the marketing side of things is just thrown aside, seen as a dirty word, when now it's absolutely crucial. You can't just rely on having a good wine, because there's good wine everywhere.
Yeah, particularly as, a closed loop, vigneron really going out, making it, growing it, making it, trying to sell it.
Yeah.
The hardest thing in wine is actually once it's in the bottle and getting it sold.
Yeah.
So have you been able to use any of what you learned?
Well, just storytelling really, and it's all just true. So the marketing of our wines is very easy. I'm just telling our story. So, because, the brand is Stoke, but really I'm the brand. And I just go out and talk about it, and people can feel the energy, I think, and feel the passion.
There you go. Could have saved yourself a degree there.
I know. Yeah, but the accountants are good. Hex debt can wait.
Yeah, the hex debt's still hurt most of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us why KI is special.
I've been going there since I was 11 with my family on family holidays. And we'd stay at actually where Kate Laurie's dad lives.
Yeah. I know.
On Deviation Road. Yeah. And we'd go out there and we'd stay for 2 weeks, and we'd just fish, and we'd take all food. Parents take wine. We'd just camp and fish and hang out for 2 weeks. And it was really incredible. I actually didn't even know people lived on Kangaroo Island, because we'd go straight there. We'd have a holiday, and then we'd come home pretty much.
Yeah, you wouldn't send another person.
Nah, we didn't even have to go to town to get supplies. We just eat fish. And then in 2008, did a vintage in Currency Creek. And then with a couple of mates, we had a van and the bed in the back and everything. And we were doing a surf trip around Australia. And KI was our first stop, because a mate's old man had just finished building a house on the south coast in the middle of nowhere, but a really beautiful house, but middle of winter. And I don't think Airbnb existed at the time as well. So he said to us, you guys can have it for $50 a week. And we were meant to be there for 6 weeks and just surf. We wanted to surf all around KI. And we ended up staying for 8 months. And we didn't see anywhere else of Australia. We went to Wollongong for a little bit, but that was it.
KI Wollongong, the grand tour.
Yeah. And then, but in that time though, we got a phone call and we were asked to see if we wanted to come and play football. And we thought, yeah, we'll go. And just for a bit of a social life, Wednesday night practice, and then Saturday games. And it was so much fun. And we, made best friends, and I ended up playing for 7 years over there, just flying back and forth. And I got a job for Kangaroo Island Estate, so sales and marketing for them. So that's when I started to learn about Kangaroo Island as a wine region. And I was like, wow, they can make this kind of wine with not a huge amount of experience. They can grow these kind of grapes as well. And then it's also incredible place, remarkable rocks and Seal Bay and all that. And it's a wine region. So I thought, this is perfect. We can work with that. And I just started learning about KI and
you talk about learning about KI as a wine region. I mean, the world needs to learn about KI as a wine region. But, if your job was to go around the world with a, elevator pitch on why you would make wine on Kangaroo Island, what's the punchy summary of what is going to be special about KI?
It'd be the ability to grow with minimal effort. In other words, organically or regeneratively. It's so windy. With the right pruning techniques, you can really lower disease pressure.
Yep.
And the soils, they vary a lot from east to west. So it's actually about 120 kilometres from the furthest east vineyard to the furthest west vineyard. And ours is a sandy loam and ironstone over clay, and False Cape in the east, they're at 300 metres above sea level, and it's quite schisty with big chunks of limestone. It's all dry grown, just an incredible spot. But people will never, it's going to be hard for people to know about KI because False Cape, they sell about 80 tonnes direct through their cellar door. And I asked Jamie once, do you guys have distribution?
Because what's distribution?
Well, he said, our wines are sold at the Penneshaw pub and in a few spots in Kingscote. And I was like, you don't know what distribution is, do you? So, tourists buy a lot of wine and the locals get behind the small amount of wineries that are there. But KI became a wine region, but declared a wine region in 2001. And I think it was like a lot of small regions in the 1990s when Shardy was booming.
Yep.
It was booming. They had land, they had the labour, they had posts and wires, and they thought we can make some money here. And a region was born, But then now all those guys who planted the vineyards are retiring, and it's very much a beer drinking culture where these guys are farmers as well, sheep, cattle and other crops, and they're not making any much money on wine. They hate pruning, they hate picking, they don't drink wine. So a lot of vineyards were let go, and then the fires claimed a bit as well in 2020.
So is the next wave, site-specific, winemaking specific sort of viticulture across KI?
Yeah.
And is there a point where, any sort of larger scale becomes problematic?
Probably just logistically with the ferry as well. But they'd have to plant more vineyards.
Yeah.
It used to be 200 hectares under vine. Now it's about 110. False Cape are planting a little bit and experimenting a bit. But people are not really expanding now.
Yeah.
But I also think, with the wine region, if it's going to move forward, they probably want to pick a driver variety.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of the Guru project, was to try and learn about all the vineyards and get a winemaker who is
connected to that
variety.
Yeah.
Yeah. A guru of that variety, and see what they can do with it without stepping on any toes. We're trying to develop relationships, not swan in and say, here's this person to show you how it's done. It wasn't like that.
So has that project helped find those answers? Is it Chardonnay because Sue Bell showed you that, or, Pinot because Steve and George could do something with Pinot, or, what learnings have come from that project?
There's definitely consistency stylistically in their wines, and that's part of the reason why we did it for 3 years, because you can't really tell much in one vintage. Yeah. And they've all gone very minimal intervention. And Steve and George, he made his exactly the same way that he makes Pinot from Ashton.
Yep.
Because that was a good benchmark, But as for picking a driver variety, it's more about getting it out into the consumers' mouths and seeing what they think. And that has been really successful, because I think, why do you drink wine? Why do you buy a wine that you buy? Turning around the question on you.
Yes.
Hopefully because it's delicious, and my mates will say, oh yeah, that's good. And I'll say, oh yeah, that's good.
So you're trusting your mates?
Well, not necessarily, but I guess I'll buy a wine because I'm hoping that it's going to be something that I like. And then if my mates or my partner likes it as well, that's like a bonus, because then I found a wine that everyone likes. So I think...
So they trust you?
Well, I don't know if they trust me, but I think that's a bit of a selling point for someone who's not a wine expert, but you want to enjoy it. You also want to try and find something that perhaps other people haven't tried yet, and then you show them and they're like, oh yeah, that's great. And then that's sort of an added bonus. So, yeah, I think about that. If I'm buying some wine and taking it to a mate's house or whatever, I'm trying to buy something that I'm going to like primarily, because that's the most important part, but hopefully something that someone else go like, oh, that's a bit different.
So you're trusting the person selling it to you? And then hopefully your friends will trust you.
Yeah, and just like I go through the bottle shop like a bookstore. I spend far too long in there looking at reviews of wine. And then I know certain varieties that I like and kind of the ballpark.
Yep.
And then I guess it's just trial and error.
Yep.
Some days better than others.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it's about trust and also making wine or growing as well. A grower needs to trust that region, that area. Yeah. The maker needs to trust where that fruit is coming from. And then trust all their gear and trust everything involved in the process. And then the consumer needs to trust that maker, or they trust the bottle shop trusts the maker, and then the consumer trusts the person in the bottle shop. So for me, it's all about trust. And I drink wines from people who pretty much I know have a relationship with, because I know that they're farming the right way, they're making it the right way, and their intentions are right. And so that was the point of Guru, because if people don't trust Kangaroo Island yet, we don't have the benefit of history on our side.
Yeah.
So if we could put Charlotte Dalton on the label, Stephen George Sue, Stephen Crawford and Kate Laurie, everybody trusts those guys because they've been working on it for so long. So I'm wanting people to get a bottle of Kangaroo Island in their hand, not because of the region, but because of the maker. Because if Kate can't make a sparkling from Kangaroo Island, which she can, by the way.
Yeah.
We tasted it last week.
Then there's not a future for sparkling wine on KI, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And then people will buy that wine because of her. And then they'll realize it's Kangaroo Island. They'll say, oh, maybe if Kate trusts Kangaroo Island, maybe I should be trusting Kangaroo Island.
But then it's
that
about
was my
quality.
Whole theory for regional
Then
development.
It's about quality after that. So it's hard to get the bottle in people's hands in the first place when there's so much competition.
Yeah.
But then they taste it and realize, oh, this is bloody good. And then potentially you've won someone over as soon as they actually taste your wine. But that's the hard part is getting it in their hand in the first place.
Yeah. And I guess people, would immediately think that there's something evocative about KI from an international perspective, but these wines are on such a small scale that they're not it's really a domestic market that you're probably needing to convince first, and then they have their own regional biases and prejudices pretty solidly imprinted.
And also there's only 8 producers on Kangaroo Island now. It used to be 18, but it's only 8 labels now. And from a region like the Barossa or Hills or Clare or whatever, the bad ones are going to be watered down.
Yeah.
If you taste a bad one from Kangaroo Island, you might not drink any other Kangaroo Island wines. You'll write that region off.
Yeah.
We're so delicate with wine. As soon as if someone had a bad Stoke wine, they're not going to buy a Stoke wine across the board again, unless I get in their ear and heckle them into it.
Yeah. That's
it's damaging for your brand.
So does that feel like a lot of pressure?
To get it right?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Now, I really believe in the subjective nature of taste, and I'm always encouraging people to trust in their own ability to taste. I'm never forcing our wines on someone, because I make wines the way that I've learned to make wines over the years, and I try and make wines that I think suit the climate and also that suit my palate as well. So no, I'm not offended at all if people don't like the wine.
Yeah, it's just not their wine.
No,
for them,
that's it.
And I guess you can't get stuck trying to make what you think people want.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to be successful if it represents you.
Yeah.
And what you believe in and what you like. And you've got to trust that and follow that. Otherwise, you're probably just throwing darts in the dark and it's not going to land anyway.
Yeah. We got forced into making a pet nat, joining the hipster trend. And I really didn't want to do that because I wanted people to take us seriously.
Yeah.
But we picked some Shiraz and it came in at 10 Beaumet. And I was like, oh, God, what do we do? Because the birds were hammering it. I had no idea what I was doing at that point in the vineyard. And the birds were just walking under the nets and hammering it. So when we picked it, it came in at 10 Beaumet. And then we made a pet nat. Turned out to be KI's first ever pet nat, and it sold out. And then
of course that sells out.
And then the next year we got number 8 in the Hot 100 and I was like, fuck, we're stuck making pet nat now.
Yeah. I think the expression is you fuck one goat.
Yeah, we couldn't stop. Yeah, but no, we've stopped now. We're very serious.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest lesson you've learned building your brand?
I suppose it's a marathon. I think a lot of it for me was it felt like a bit of a sprint, and then I learned a lesson later in life that everything is a marathon, and particularly in wine, I think you can't get ahead of yourself. You have to pick the things that you're doing, and if you're going to finish a marathon, it's all about your preparation. To get, not many people do full marathons to train for a marathon. It's a psychological thing. And I think with wine, it's the same thing, not to play all your cards at once and to really focus on getting those little things right if you're going to properly develop a brand with integrity. And that's part of the reason why I always wanted to grow our own fruit as well. I wanted to be a part of it from the start to the very finish.
What's the challenge of playing that long game though, and having that patience and resilience, I suppose, to see something out when you're not getting the payoff straight away?
Yeah, still not getting the payoff. No, definitely. No, there's a lot of love getting the payoff. Financially, it's very hard. It's very stressful. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a grind. You can't, well, I do now, take the foot off the pedal, but I just didn't before at all, ever. There's no 9 to 5. So it's very hard to switch off, especially if you're very passionate about it. It can be quite frustrating. And I think the wine industry, you're not just printing a T-shirt and selling that. Like you're in the public eye as well, and you're trying to get in the public eye. You're trying to. So there's a lot of judgment, which is really difficult.
You have to open yourself up for that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful community and it's really tight. But we're always judging each other for something that is so subjective.
Yeah. And you're judging yourself harder than anyone.
Definitely, yeah. That's your thoughts coming into play, which are not real, but it's just so hard to differentiate those from reality.
What was driving you so hard to throw your whole life at this when it was so many hours and so much work?
I think that I just wanted to be something. I wanted Kangaroo Island to be something. I was focusing on regional development. I really wanted Kangaroo Island to be, seen as one of the best grape growing regions of the world. And I also wanted to be something. So it was my ego definitely coming into play. So all the pressure was coming it was internal. It's from me, but I wanted to be the best. And that caught up with me eventually. My body told me to slow down.
Yeah. Okay. This is where we, bring the big subject in. So, we spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about the challenges of, running a wine business and, how market conditions are tough and everything else. The climate's tough to grow grapes. The climate is tough to sell wine. It's hard enough dealing with all of that. It's even harder with a cancer diagnosis thrown on top of it. So let's bring that onto the table.
Yeah. That was serious whirlwind. Still is.
Yeah.
Ongoing. I had radiotherapy on Tuesday.
Yep.
Because my cancer has come back. So I was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer in August 2023. So I had a 5 centimeter tumor in my upper rectum and it had gone through the bowel and was in 3 lymph nodes that they could see. So therefore they called it stage 3. And then I had to go through 9 months of treatment after that, chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And then I was in remission. And I was in remission for a year, and then it's just popped back up in my lungs. So there's 2 lumps in my left lung, which I had radiation for on Tuesday. And then I've got 2 lumps in my right lung, which are very small. So they're just going to wait and watch on those. So yeah, the journey continues, but it's been
you think you're sort of in the clear and it pulls you back in.
Yeah, well,
Al Pacino and The Godfather 3.
Yeah, I really don't want to get on the cancer treadmill, and I don't think I will. I think we're going to sort this out.
Yeah.
But the first 8 days after I got diagnosed was the most intense. That was traumatic. I didn't know if I had a chance at survival or not.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't tell you what stage it was yet?
Yeah, we knew I had a tumor. So I had a colonoscopy and we knew that I had a tumor. And then it was 8 days before I got all the scans and everything to find out where it had spread to.
Yeah, I think everyone at times deals with existential dread, but that is pretty concentrated
Yeah.
hardcore,
Yep.
period. And there's got to be, long-term bruises on the soul and the psyche from something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I've definitely got PTSD from diagnosis.
Yep.
Because it's strange now that the cancer is back, I almost feel more comfortable with
Very
it
good.
rather than in anticipation.
You're not looking over your shoulder
Exactly,
for it.
yeah. And if I get a twinge in my knee or a sore back or something, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's quite full on. And then also the stress of the business, which I'm a lot more aware of now. And I do so many things. I feel the healthiest and fittest I ever have in my life, except I've got a little bit of cancer on the side.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I was half expecting them to say it's gone because I've been feeling amazing.
You've sort of psyched it out almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Mentally, after that 8 days, like that was just crying and fear. And it's like you go to bed at night and it's 2 a.m, just you're at home by yourself, and then you hear the noise of someone in the kitchen. Can you imagine that feeling that would go through your body?
No.
It's massive amount of cortisol and massive amount of adrenaline. It's just through your body like you've had your first cigarette at a party. Yeah. And it was just that full time for that period. And also after starting chemotherapy, which is just horrible.
Yeah.
But then I met a guy, Sam, who's my meditation coach still to the day and one of my best mates. And he was incredible to help change my perspective on cancer and just on life in general. And I just got so many life lessons from cancer. It was actually just a massive gift in the end. I feel so grateful for it, I think. And I'm amazed at what my body can do. And I feel like I really know on a different level what it is to be human.
Yeah.
And I have just a much better understanding of health in general and changed my perspective on the wine industry. But it changed so much that I went through a very angry period of the whole fuck cancer thing. And that's you see stickers everywhere and people are so upset about cancer. But I had loved my cancer. It changed completely and I was so thankful for it. And I still am. I want it gone now. I've learnt my lesson.
Yeah, it could fuck off right now.
Yeah.
So just explain that a bit more, because I think people listening would be like, what do you mean you love cancer? And it's hard to wrap your head around.
I know you've got to be really careful on who you say it to as well, because a lot of people are trapped in that anger period. What I mean is I realize that it is me. They're my cells and they're there for a reason. Chemotherapy, radiotherapy, it's Band-Aid fixes. I need to change the terrain within. And so I started focusing on doing that. And that means loving myself a lot more, realizing who I actually am, or what I am as well. And the only reality that is that I am a biological being who is meant to be here and meant to thrive and heal and just feel the power of my body. But psychologically, I was living in the future full time. I was never in the present. I was always, what's next with Kangaroo Island? What's next with me as a winemaker? And my body doesn't know the difference between right now and the future. So I was living with heightened levels of cortisol in my system for a long period. 10 years I've been working, 12 years thinking about Kangaroo Island and the future. I was never in the present, and now I practice that a lot, and I'm just so satisfied and so excited about life and just being in this. It's also made me realize, actually, I just kind of walk around in awe of Mother Nature now, and then also dumbfounded but kind of excited about human concept, like what we're doing to this place.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. It's kind of comical, and then it's so serious that it's actually, we're causing our own extinction.
Yeah. How do you now reconcile that need to keep thinking ahead and keep, there still needs to be
a plan,
some kind of drive, for the future, but at the same time going, well, part of me is projecting that way, another part of me needs to be looking internally and thinking about how I am right now and how do I look after myself right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Meditation is the biggest one for me because I'm still, you got to think about the future. You got to plan. Future's not real, but you're going to be there eventually. I've got to make a plan. So I'm getting those plans in place, I suppose, trying not to get ahead of myself. I don't want to be anything else. I couldn't care less what anybody thinks about me. But meditation is the biggest one. And that's just, I meditate every night between half an hour and an hour, depending on, I don't time it. I just do it and see what happens.
You had to build up to that point though.
Definitely. Yeah. I've been doing it for 2 years now.
Yeah.
At least 6 nights a week.
Because if someone's starting out, probably a couple minutes is more. 5 minutes is probably more realistic.
Yeah. And a lot of people will say, my mind's too busy to meditate.
Should be doing it then.
You should be doing it. Yeah. And when you do get distracted, that is like going to the gym and lifting a dumbbell. You know, the weight goes down, you pull it back up. That's you strengthening your prefrontal cortex, teaching your brain that the only thing that really exists is right now and learning the ability to be present. And nothing was so safe. There is no fear. There's nothing to fear.
If someone told you to meditate before your diagnosis, what would you have said?
I meditated a bit when I was younger because of my tennis, but it was more about visualization techniques. So I had it there a little bit. And I did start in that first 8 days, I did start because also when you get diagnosed, it's so overwhelming the amount of information that's thrown your way and everybody wants to help. It's all coming from a really beautiful place. And you, as a desperate cancer patient now, you take all this information on board.
Open yourself up to everything.
Yeah, like you're looking for a silver bullet, you know? So you take that information on board. But then for me, meditation was an obvious one because I'm not ingesting anything. I'm scared of putting any drugs or anything in my body. And the pills of the chemotherapy was easily the hardest to take because you have to wear gloves. If you drop this little hard pill, you have to do a chemical cleanup for it. And you have to have it out of
that in your body.
And then you have to swallow it. Yeah. And it's completely, it's like glyphosate for the body. It's non-selective. It'll take your fast dividing cells, which is your tumor. But then my hands peeled off 3 times. Yeah. My feet peeled off. I was like a pregnant woman. Every symptom, everything that they get, I had, except for nausea. And then at the end of it, I was meant to have a cesarean to get the tumor out. It didn't happen in the end.
Yeah, better that way.
But it was horrible.
How do you make that time? I mean, there's work stuff on, there's family stuff on, you've got kids. How do you get that time for yourself?
The wine community was incredible. I feel so lucky to be a part of it, and lucky that we had wine as well to sell. Because I reached out on social media, and it was really nerve-wracking because I've never actually put photos of myself on our Instagram.
Yeah,
and now it's just all videos of me. You might have noticed.
Magazine covers and God knows what else.
I'm not attached to my physical self these days, so it's not. Yeah, I reached out on social media. I really went fishing for love. And I'm so glad that I did, but it was a big nerve-wracking decision. But people just got around us and they bought wine online. And people bought about $60,000 of wine over the next 3 weeks. And a mate came to help me pack it all up. And another mate came and delivered all the SA stuff. Our graphic designers wiped their bill. The banks got in touch eventually and they stopped repayments on my loans.
Yeah.
Another guy in McLaren, Vale, he stopped repayments on our equipment loans. It was really incredible what happened. And then Anton Groffen from Wirra Wirra, he came to me and he said, mate, I'm taking the vineyard off your hands, which was just phenomenal because it's 4 hours away from our house and we got a ferry there and everything.
It's about as difficult a vineyard management gig you can give yourself.
Yeah, it's a serious mission and he did it all. And he also contacted a company and they supplied all of the organic chemicals that we needed for that whole period. So financially, the stress was off. And I still at home, chemoed up to the eyeballs, I would still be doing some work.
Yeah.
And after an intravenous chemo hit, it'd be about 2 weeks before I could get back on track, or 10 days. But then I'd go and start doing some stuff in the winery.
Yeah.
After that. So yeah, managed to just keep it going. And then recently we're really struggling. I was going for radiotherapy and I did another little shout out.
Yeah.
And it's just unreal. The support was, the cancer hasn't made me cry at all, but the support has made me cry so much. Lauren Langfield did a GoFundMe for us for the vineyard, saved 22 grand, which covered the expense of the vineyard that year.
Yeah, and it's not easy though to open yourself up to that and sort of put a hand up and go, we need some help here. And I know I've heard you talk about some people who won't even tell their nearest and dearest about a cancer diagnosis and will try and just internalize and go through it alone. So what advice would you give to someone who's in that sort of similar position, scared of opening up, scared of fishing for love, like you say, because not everyone is necessarily wired to do it, maybe like you did.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? And is that like why do we think like that? I don't really understand, but I know that people want to help so desperately. Apparently, they've still from the when did the Twin Towers go down? Was that 2001?
Yeah.
Apparently, they've still got blood left over from the blood donations when that happened.
Yeah.
And that's because, and you felt it, the feeling during the fires in 2020, the Adelaide Hills and Kangaroo Island. What did you want to do? I wanted to be there fighting, but I couldn't. Wife wouldn't let me go.
Yeah.
But you want to help so desperately. And you've got to understand that people, they want to give you $200.
Yeah.
They really desperately want to be in your corner. So I think it's good to give each other the opportunity. And I'm also going to pay that forward. It's part of my plan. It makes me feel good. If any of those people ever reach out for anything for me, I'm donating, or I'm going to be there. So I think if we can all do that, like the strength of community, if we can pay it forward for each other, then I don't know, that feeling is contagious as well.
It's a very powerful idea.
Mm-hmm.
Speaks to the character of the community too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And our wine community is an amazing one. We're very, very lucky. Even though we're competing all the time, wine shows and all these other things, when it gets serious, I think, we're there for each other.
But do you think that's part of it, that everyone's trying to do what you're trying to do in their own way and they respect and appreciate how much passion and work and effort goes into it? And everyone can relate to that. So when someone's going through what you're going through, it makes sense to get behind them because you see a bit of yourself in them, and in a way you'd maybe not expect that it would come back in return, but it's just like you respect the person because you know how hard they work and how much they care and that they care about the community, and that makes you want to help them out.
Yeah, for sure. I think people understand in the wine game how tough it is. And then they also think, imagine throwing that kind of situation into the mix. So, yeah, I think that was part of it for sure. A lot of people actually, winemakers offered to make our wine that year. The guys at Unicazello and Bleasdale as well. And people just reached out and said, we'll make your wine this year, which would have been huge. But the timing of everything that I did, I think that vintage was easily the best of my life because I was alive.
Yeah.
And I had the energy to do it. I was in a waiting period to find out whether the chemo and the radio had worked. But also with that money that people that came in online, we were able to employ an assistant winemaker, Kyle, his name is. And I met him at a Guru tasting.
Yeah.
And his energy was incredible. He's such a phenomenal human. And he has been a massive part of my healing process, just to have that and have that camaraderie again. Because when you start making your own wine, often vintage, it's just you there.
Yeah.
You don't have that little hit of community. So to have him there was amazing. And it definitely helped me. He's a counsellor / assistant winemaker / swagging out in the vineyard, doing everything. Yeah, it's a unique role to take on. And he just met it with so much enthusiasm. And it was a massive relief for us and our family.
Do you think people know how they can help, or they're suddenly, they can be confused or, find it difficult to reach out and offer that help?
Yeah,
It's better to, and we've all been in situations where something terrible has happened and you find that there's no wrong thing to say. You're always happier to hear from someone than not.
Yep.
And, is that some encouragement you give Jess, pick up the phone or make the call or make the offer to help or just do what you can?
Yeah, it is. It's strange that we need a reason to do those things as well. Like, why don't we just
do it? Par for the course.
Yeah. We had Mark Matthews as a big wave surfer in our winery the other week, and he was telling us about the science of gratitude, and simply sending a text message to some people a few times a week has a massive effect on your life.
Yeah.
And it's a release of oxytocin. It's a release of, which is love, pretty much, the feel-good hormone. And to do that regularly, to practice that regularly changes your world.
You do that now?
Nah. A little bit. You'll get a text later in the week. No, I do. I think I do. I chat with mates all the time. Yeah. I'm always on the phone chatting. So I think I do it in general. And if I'm in the vineyard, it's a podcast or it's a phone call. So half the time I'm chatting.
But is that, is that part of who you've always been, or is that, part of a post-cancer you?
No, I think it's part of who I've always been, for sure. I would be, telling the person on the bus next to me about my life and learning about their life, and just conversations with, people are so interesting. People are the best thing to exist. It's
best and worst.
Best and worst. Yeah, we're our own worst enemy. But no, I just love people. I think it's probably, I didn't get into the wine industry because I love wine. I do love wine, but
love wine
I kind of learned to love wine. Yeah, I love wine people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think we're just losing that a little bit at the moment. The market's so tough.
Absolutely.
That we need to, strength in numbers will be the thing, and focus on community and sticking together will get us through this period. And communication, of course, is the biggest one.
Been really interested in some of your commentary recently about, our relationship with alcohol. And I think you've got a very interesting perspective, on that. And then there is a demonizing of alcohol out there in the wider world. It seems to be a pretty popular target from the new Puritanism movement. But I really like your perspective on that. Can you just touch on some of your thinking around our relationship with alcohol?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny that we describe it as a relationship in the first place. That was one thing for me, like, oh, wow, we have a relationship with a liquid, which suggests emotional connection, which it really is for a lot of people. It can release love, but then it can also, at the other end of the spectrum, release anger. But yeah, I do believe alcohol, one sip of alcohol is bad for you. And there's a lot of science around it as well. We all say, confirmation bias. I make wine. I really don't want it to be bad for us. But if you just trust your intuition, it tells me that alcohol is bad for you. Science is incredible these days. It's modern science has been around for 400 years. And I think it has led to us having a pretty serious separation from Mother Nature, which we are, and therefore we don't trust our own ability to make judgment. We need the science to back it up. We're desperate for that to back up our decision making. Whereas if you just stop and think about it for a little while, alcohol is bad. It's got to be the worst drug in the world. But then for me, from what I know about wine, real wine, is there is a huge difference between wine and alcohol. And wine, if it's done right, if it's farmed the right way, and it's made the right way, and it's consumed the right way, is a massive source of connection and community and love and joy, oxytocin, lowering cortisol levels. Yeah, you drink 2 glasses of wine at night with your friends or with your partner with a nice meal. There's science behind the level of cortisol dropping. So the alcohol is not good for you and those 2 glasses of wine, but that lowering of the cortisol is great for you.
Yeah, so we can cancel those things out in the best of cases. Yeah.
And cancer and a lot of chronic illnesses, it's death by 1,000 cuts. There's so many things, and we live in a polarized world. There's going to be, if we want to indulge in something like this, then there's going to be some kind of payoff.
So how's the way that you approach drinking changed?
It's been huge. I love wine even more since cancer, but I haven't had a sip since I found out it was back in my lungs. And after the initial cancer, I didn't drink for that. My radio oncologist sipping, I hope he doesn't listen to this.
We'll make sure he does.
Sipping a Pepsi, telling me that it was okay to drink alcohol. And I was like, what? What do you mean? As if I'm going to put that in my body while I'm putting that other shit in my body. Mm. I had to do everything I possibly could to heal. And if I'm just constantly peppering it with a low dose of anything, and that's, there's a lot of things in our world now that are causing chronic stress on our bodies, and our bodies are constantly trying to heal, then, it's going to have an effect. So, I didn't have a sip. And then once I was all clear, and when everybody wanted their money, like the banks, and, cancer was gone. So bang, it was back on. Psychologically, of course, no, but in other people's eyes, it was, right, you're good to go. But I was having perhaps 2 to 3 glasses a week, and it was always something that I cared about and was farmed the right way.
It's just not that, oh God, I need something, wash the day away.
I was trying to put my money in the right spot. But I think a big issue with the wine industry now is we are making a lot of alcohol disguised as wine.
Yep.
And, in that WBM magazine, I ripped on the Riverland a little bit, and, Sunraysia and just those places that are cropping at 10 to 15 tonnes an acre. I think they're making alcohol. There's no integrity there. There's no depth. There's no story.
Yeah.
And when I worked up there, I worked at Zilsey in the Riverland for 2 years. As my wife, being Scottish, she needed sponsorship to stay in the country, and just got a look at what happens there. But if you own a vineyard up there and you're working a vineyard, you're referred to as a blocky. You're a bogan with a vineyard and tractors and spraying anything and everything that the GLO might tell you what to do to get these crops up to a level where we can then go and produce wine for $1 to $2 a litre, and then send it to China or to America or wherever it's going. But it's not wine. There's no story there.
Ethanol farming.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were wine factories that we made them in. Where I was, we did 45,000 tonnes. We do 30 tonnes. It takes us the same amount of time as what it took them to do 45,000.
Yeah.
And Beck's Winery down the road, 100,000 tonne winery. So it's soulless. But Ashley Ratcliffe, he messaged to say, you've upset a few people in the Riverland. And I really apologise for that. It's coming from a place of compassion.
Yeah.
I don't mean to rip on anybody. And he's doing great things with experimenting with alternative varieties, which is one solution to what we're doing, and focusing on soil health.
And we've also seen some people, reworking, traditional variety vineyards in the Riverland and scaling it down, and then trying to, find a new future for, that sort of viticulture.
Yeah. Which is unreal. And they're the solutions that we need. But we also, I think, in the eye of the consumer, we need to separate wine and alcohol.
Yep.
Which is to just get more European about it, really. They wouldn't hardly ever drink wine without food. We need to start focusing on those and focusing on community. Just maybe not worry. Like, wine shows are a funny one, but we just need an excuse to get together. The best thing about wine shows
is the community.
Yeah, and polishing the glasses with your friends. It's just fun. You're talking shit all day, having a great time, and then you get to celebrate with a good dinner. But then we give awards out, and it's a little bit, who's the best here, and And then you want it so badly. You want that gold medal for some reason, which is just weird.
So it's not about getting pissed. It's about quality and connection and needing that to be at the heart of what you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's about eye contact, hanging out with your friends, an excuse to be with each other, which is so healing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And if you want the science to back it up, it's there as well. The science behind eye contact and the development of empathy. You can look into that if you want. But do we really need the science for that stuff? Unfortunately, I think science means that we need the science for it because we don't trust in our own ability to be human. We see ourselves as a visitor to this earth, which was a massive thing for me when I got cancer. I realized that, shit, I'm meant to be here. I'm perfect, I was born perfect. I don't need to be anything else. But then there's this whole human concept stuff that comes into it that gives me this urge and desire to be the best when I just need to sit back and enjoy the gift that is awareness. And the only thing I think, my purpose in life was to grow Kangaroo Island as a wine region.
Yep.
Then I got cancer and I was like, holy shit, regions are just human concept anyway. It's just a bit of land floating out in the middle of the ocean. And Ashley Ratcliffe got upset about the riverland, but it's just soil. Who called it the riverland in the first place? It's all weird human concept, And there's a bigger issue at play now, and it is actually a matter of life and death, which is soil health.
Yeah.
And it's leading so much, we're now, and Callum, you said you lost a mate to suicide, and now we're starting to talk about mental health. And why did it take so long for us to actually acknowledge that? And I think it's because you can't see it. It's so hard to fathom because you can't see it. And, my mate's feeling terrible. Like, suck it up, mate. You'll be all right. But it's exactly the same thing with soil health. We can't see what's going on under there in this incredible galaxy. Oh, that's probably not a good way to explain it. But, the life that is going on in the soil is amazing. But we can't see it. All we see is what's on the surface. And, we've sprayed all these chemicals on it and it's booming and green and we're getting a big lush crop. But what's that actually doing to us inside? That there was that American president who said, you are what you eat. Can't remember who it was. Nixon, maybe?
Let's hope not. But,
but anyway, I think it's you are what you eat and eats. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Yeah.
But we're starting to, the research behind the microbiome and what we're ingesting over the last 20 years has been exponential. And we're realizing that what we put into our body is what we become. And we're putting shit in.
And there's a link with that and the rising rates of young people getting bowel cancer.
Yeah.
Well, they're certainly linked.
Well, I believe my theory on why I got bowel cancer has changed a little bit over time because it was to do with my disconnection from the present. But when I went and saw my bowel surgeon, he said, I think your tumor is 16 to 18 months in size. So then
you're back over what's happened in that.
I was thinking, what happened 16 to 18 months ago? And I was in the vineyard on a pruning mission in the middle of winter and I got a rash. It started on my forehead and then it spread over my whole body. And it was in my mouth and it was in my bum and it was so it was potentially through my whole GI tract. Don't know. But I was like, oh, wow, the rash caused the cancer. So I started looking up research papers about that. And then, but during that time, so that rash was so itchy, I didn't sleep for 6 nights. And in that time, I was having 8 to 10 hot showers. I was draining the hot water tank. Mm-hmm. And it was the most incredible feeling on my whole body, like through my hair and my feet and my hands. It was just phenomenal. I was addicted to these showers. I don't know anybody who's ever tried heroin, but I reckon that's probably what it feels like.
Right.
Yeah. And so then I was like, oh shit, what about those showers? I wonder what's going on there. And it was a massive release of serotonin. So majority of your serotonin, which is also your feel-good hormone, is in your GI tract. 90% of it resides in the mucosa of your GI tract, and 10% of it is in your brain, comes from your brain. Well, we just think it comes from the brain.
Yeah.
We think everything comes from the brain. Yeah. So then I started looking into serotonin, and serotonin is made up of an essential amino acid called tryptophan. So essential amino acid meaning that we can only get that amino acid from what we eat.
Yeah.
We've got 20 amino acids in our body and 9 of them are essential. So coming from our nutrition. So then I started looking at how do I get tryptophan in my diet? And it's mainly through leafy greens. It's in turkey, but nobody eats turkey.
Yeah.
Maybe at Christmas time. But
yeah, with sparkling Shiraz. That's the only way people sell sparkling Shiraz or turkeys. It's Christmas time.
Yeah. So then, and tryptophan is developed through an enzymatic pathway called the shikimate pathway, and that led me to researching glyphosate, because that is, and why glyphosate became so popular, that's glyphosate's mechanism for killing a plant. So we'll chat about glyphosate.
Yeah, let's go.
Wait, first of all, why did the showers feel so good?
It was the release of serotonin.
But why was that happening more than a normal shower?
Because when you itch a little scratch, it feels good.
Right.
That's a little microdose of serotonin.
Oh, okay.
That's your body released majority from the gut, giving you a little bit of a feel good. Or you put a hot spoon on a mozzie bite.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of serotonin.
Okay. So it hurts so good kind of
hurts
feeling.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, it hurt good.
But it makes it worse.
It makes it. Well, I got a bit of relief for about an hour.
And what was the rash from?
They think it was a spider bite, but there was no spider bite.
Okay.
I just can't figure it out.
So
it was at the time of monkeypox.
Not a stress rash.
Nah. Well, I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
It was at the time of monkeypox and they put me in a glass box at the Flinders.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I messaged a mate saying, I've got monkeypox, and he sent it out to all of our friends. So when we go to the vineyard on KI, I swag on the ground. We built a room in the shed for my old man. But the 2 weeks before, it had the whole farm. They had foot rot in their sheep. So they'd got the sheep off. They sprayed the whole place except for our vineyard. It's a 500-acre farm with glyphosate. So it was on the ground there and possibly in the water that I was showering all that night. But it's the issue with glyphosate. It's not necessarily just a hit like that, whether I even got a hit sleeping in amongst it like that. But it's the chronic levels of glyphosate that are making it into our system. And that's what I started researching. So I want people to know that I'm not just picking on glyphosate for the sake of it. There was a reason why I wound up at glyphosate. And it truly is, from what I've learned, it's life or death. It's seriously that bad. But, it gets quite corrupt and there's a lot of conspiracy theories and all sorts of things around it as well. And I also understand how incredibly convenient it is. It's an amazing chemical.
Yeah.
It cuts out probably bloody 4 staff working for a...
But what is the cost of convenience?
The cost of convenience, yeah. Well, we're starting to see it. Bowel cancer's up by 300% in 30 years.
Yeah.
So glyphosate was when it first hit the market, it was a chelator, which means it binds to metal ions. So it was used to strip metal ions out of pipes, and that was in the 60s. And so when we're putting it into the soil, it is binding up a lot of these micronutrients that a plant needs, and then also what we need. I'll talk about how it affects vineyards as well in a sec. But then in the 60s, Monsanto patented it after that, and it hit the market. The reason it became so popular is because mammals don't have the shikimate pathway. Us or any animals don't have the shikimate pathway in us. So it was so marketable. At the time, the testing period was 3 months, and they tested in mice, and then it got approval. Even though one of the researchers working at the time, Don Huber, his name was, he said that any chemical that would cause further pathogens should not be registered. And this was because it was chelating these minerals. and stripping out mainly manganese was a big one, or magnesium. I get confused, but it's to do with lignification, like hardening of the cells on the outside of the plant, which is a defense to any kind of pathogen. But yeah, so it got really popular because of the shikimate pathway. There was a lot of catchphrases like, safer than water and all this other stuff. And gut science was nowhere near what it is now, but they've now realized that humans are more bacteria and fungi than we are human. Only slightly, but there are more bacteria and fungi in our body forming this massive communication network. And 54% of those have the shikimate pathway in them, including the one that develops.
So
tryptophan.
We don't have it technically, but
it
does exist within us.
Yeah, we wouldn't be what we are without the amount of bacteria and fungi that we have in our system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the shikimate pathway that they've discovered. But also it breaks down the protein structure in the cell lining in your stomach. And that's like a little Velcro that holds all the cells together. And it's the width of half a hair. So it's our barrier to the outside world is very thin. So any kind of toxin that we're putting into our body, all this glyphosate will break down the protein structure, which then causes leaky gut and opens your whole system up to all the toxins that we're ingesting. And they've related leaky gut to, 90% of the chronic illnesses that exist these days. But it's all just very new. So it's kind of taking a while to catch on, I think. But then glyphosate, the craziest part is it's got a very similar chemical makeup to an amino acid, glycine, which is just an amino acid that we have in our system. It makes up 70% of all collagen within us, but it also makes up that epithelial lining in the stomach. But glyphosate, and particularly on smaller levels where it's got the room to bind, will bind in places where glycine would otherwise bind. And glycine is in your brain, it's in your liver, it's in absolutely everywhere. So glyphosate has the ability to travel throughout your body and is causing chronic stress throughout the whole system. So that's where it's it gets kind of crazy. And it is also water soluble. So it's everywhere. It'll work on contact, but then there's studies that saying it stays in the soil for up to 22 years.
Right.
It doesn't just wash off, but this is just all the things that we believe that has made it so popular. And then in 1996, genetically modified crops came about by the same people that produce glyphosate or Roundup. And that's when it got really serious. There's a lot of correlation with autism is a massive one. And, everybody's gluten intolerant these days, but there's a belief that it's actually glyphosate toxicity.
Yeah.
So all these things, they've got a lot of study. Smoking took 7,000 peer-reviewed papers for people to admit that smoking
from a time,
lung
and
cancer.
from a starting point where they use doctors to advertise cigarettes.
Camels are the doctor's choice.
Used to send the big cigarette mascot into hospitals to meet with kids and stuff.
Yeah, crazy.
So it can be done.
Can be done. And there's over 100.
It just needs to be the will to make it happen.
There's over 100 peer-reviewed papers now relating glyphosate to cancers, and particularly non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which in Australia there was just a class act which was dismissed. 600 Australians claiming that glyphosate had caused their cancer. And it was, I don't know the reason, but it didn't go through. They didn't win. But in America, there's been 17 cases go through the High Court now, and 11 of them have been won by the cancer patient. The first one was in the 90s or something, and the latest one was just last year, and the guy got paid out $2.4 billion. And then there are conspiracies like there's a German company, Bayer, they bought Monsanto.
Yeah.
And there are conspiracies that the price factored in what they were going to have to pay out for. There's 600,000 cases outstanding now.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get a law passed so that they can't get sued for the damage that it's done.
Yeah, playing an end game.
So it's pretty bloody dark.
So does Is there a particular advantage or role that wine makers can play in spreading that message? And the way that we talk about wine, the way that we think about wine, is there a particularly poignant way wine can express the problem?
Yeah, well, it was really surprising to me. When we took over our vineyard, I started to learn about soil health. I wanted to farm the right way, figuring out what that was. But nobody ever mentions mycorrhizal fungi, which I think we really need to start understanding or talking about more, because mycorrhizal, like the majority of energy produced through photosynthesis, doesn't necessarily go into growing the vine tip or ripening fruit. It goes into the vine sweating into the soil, and that's called eschadates. And then along come bacteria and fungi, and they eat the eschadates. So it's creating a lot of life down there. And then protozoa and nematodes, they come along and they eat that bacteria and fungi, and then they excrete it out. And along comes, they excrete out nitrogen in usable form. So the vine, in a way, is attracting its own nitrogen. And then from there, mycorrhizal fungi come along, and it will start metabolizing that and delivering it back to the plant. So the vine develops a symbiotic relationship deliberately with this mycorrhizal fungi, and it will send it up into the plant, and that vine will be strong and healthy. And through the mycelium in the ground, the plants can communicate with each other. If one is sick and suffering from some kind of pathogen, then they'll head along and support it. There's a whole network under there that we think we're really just scratching the surface of.
But disrupt that with chemical.
Yeah, well, as soon as you put glyphosate in there, you're destroying all biology. Even once or twice when we do, you drive into a fancy cellar door and you see these perfect lines of dark soil there. It's not soil, it's dirt. They've killed that with a herbicide and they've destroyed it. And if you don't have the biology in your soil, if you don't have mycorrhizal fungi, you're not going to have the terroir, I suppose. Because terroir really, as a percentage, what would soil play in that? I know it's a lot of other things, but it's got to be a pretty big part of it.
I think it's got to be the major component of it.
Yeah. So if you don't have mycorrhizal fungi, then that's not delivering terpenes and flavonoids and polyphenols to your fruit. Yeah. And so I think if you don't have biology, you can't be claiming terroir. You're just kind of making a blanket.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what your heat degree days are or where the wind's coming from or.
Yeah, exactly. So you're really undermining, if you undermine soil health, you're undermining human health as well, but you're damaging that plant as well, making it more susceptible to all sorts of diseases.
How do you think you can convince people to not use glyphosate when the dollar's the bottom line? Like you said, potentially that stops you employing 4 other people. It makes it much more affordable. How do you make that argument to people that they'd actually be better off and we'd all be better off if we didn't do that?
He's just done a pretty good job of it just now.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's pretty compelling.
I don't think I can do it, and I don't think I'm going to have to do it because I think it will be illegal within the next 20 years. So we have to start coming up with ways on how to do this, because surely out of 17 cases, 11 of them have said that it's caused cancer, and we're still spraying this stuff everywhere. It's kind of like, isn't that evidence enough for us?
Yeah, it should be.
Do you think just because that's in America that we're not taking it as seriously yet?
Yeah, perhaps. I'm not sure. It's a really hard one. I think it's just going to become a need eventually, unfortunately. And it's kind of what I've seen with my own personal journey. Or like an alcoholic, you've got to hit absolute rock bottom to admit that you've even got a problem. And for me, my rock bottom was cancer. For an alcoholic, maybe it's crashing their car and nearly dying or killing their mate or something, or, something pretty terrible for them to go, oh, wow, I've got to sort myself out here. And hopefully it does. That's not, we've degraded 97% of viable topsoil on planet Earth. And
it's getting pretty close to rock bottom.
Yeah, and there's wars and shit going on. I feel like it's weird to say, but it's almost like we need this world war, to make us switch on to the fact that we're destroying this place.
Mm. Yeah, we need the aliens to come down and make themselves known in the mothership. We'll all band together. So how do you avoid glyphosate now? I mean, obviously with your own practices, but what about for the average Joe who's listening to this and sounds like it'd be a good idea to stay away from glyphosate?
Yeah.
But you said it's everywhere, so.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard because even in organic food, they're finding it, because it's water soluble, it'll evaporate and it will come down in the rainfall. But buy organic wherever you can. And you can wash your food in all sorts of stuff that helps. You can spray sauerkraut juice on your soil, which will help bring it out. But it's a really hard one. I don't know. We have to stop using it, but I think it's going to take, even after we do stop using it, it's going to take a long, long time for it to be out of the system. Yeah.
Mm.
I do think it's got something to do with bowel cancer as well.
Yeah.
Particularly because of the glycine, the amino acid binding to the site. Sorry, glyphosate binding to the site where amino acid is.
And you started your own podcast this year, speaking to experts relating to cancer and making it primarily for people with cancer going through a similar experience.
Yeah, through cancer or just through any kind of challenge in their lives. Yeah, any kind of trauma, which we all do. Everybody's got something. So just, to try and develop the tactics to deal with that, because that was my only defense really, was to just focus on myself and develop the tactics to deal with the fear and deal with any of the side effects coming along with it. But yeah, the people that we talk to, they just explain their situation. And the first guy that we spoke to, he uses a tactic of just comparing yourself to others, because there's always somebody who's got it worse than you. So that's a really good one. It's quite simple.
Mm.
I think the solutions to all these things, glyphosate and mental health and all this stuff, they're actually really annoyingly simple. You kind of wish that there was just a drug that you could take, and it's fixed. And it's because we've all bought into this scheme that is convenience. We don't have time. I want to go to the doctor. I've actually found a doctor now who tells me, I called her yesterday and she said to me, you need to take a week off and you need to go and be with people that you love and you need to go surfing and do some things that you really enjoy. And I was like, that's the prescription.
Yeah.
Where's my drug?
But we spend most of our time not doing that,
on
of
the
course,
PBS.
Yeah.
because there's this expectation mostly that we put on ourselves, but also just via our responsibilities of we have X amount of things that need to get done. You're the only one who can do them. People are relying on you. And so we spend most of our lives on that edge of really pushing ourselves to get everything done that we need to get done. Meanwhile, all these other factors going on, and then it's not all that surprising that we all end up, well, not all of us, but at some point, but end up getting sick or falling in a heap because we're not doing the things that humans are actually biologically designed for, which is a lot less taxing on the mind and body.
Being in nature, hunting for our food. Can you imagine before all of this sort of stuff, this human stuff, imagine the stressful periods of our day, what would they be? Like, it'd only be if a saber-toothed tiger rocked up to your camp.
Yeah, the pure survival moments.
And about self-image, I've always wondered, like, if like with mental health, if you had depression, I wonder what not looking in the mirror for 2 months would do for you. I don't know if there's been studies done on that, but mirrors were invented, I don't know what it is, 800 years ago or something. We can actually look at ourselves, which is weird. Or you can never look at yourself. It's always a reflection.
Yeah, sometimes they say that, if you can laugh, that cures depression. And I look in the mirror every day and laugh.
Yeah. But I think one of the antidotes for that's most obvious is connection. And that's a huge part of what you're doing and why you make wine is a vehicle into connection. And that's the opposite of addiction, and what people are looking for and what people are lacking when they are really depressed or really struggling with their mental health or other things going wrong in their life is We all want connection, and sometimes the answer to find it can be really simple, but actually getting there and feeling it and maintaining that in our lives and putting the effort into it can be difficult. And I think we can lose touch with ourselves and lose touch with what's important and end up feeling lost and detached and dejected because that doesn't naturally come with our society anymore. Like you talk about when we going back centuries, automatically you had your tribe, you had your people that you needed to survive, and you all relied on each other. And this is another symptom of us living such isolated lives now where, yeah, sure, most people, if they're fortunate, they might have a partner or have a family, but less and less we feel like we're actually part of a village, of a community where the connection's automatic. You have to go and seek it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Plug the podcast too, because everyone who's out there, once they've finished listening to season 3 of Healthy Minds, Healthy Vines, and have some space in their lives for another podcast, because it is great. So tell us what people should be looking for.
Just quickly on that though, we're conditioned from birth. Like before we started recording, my son, we were talking about how he just got a school report, and so we're giving grades and we're judging, and we are we're always like, wanting to move forward, wanting to be something else, wanting to do this, do that, achieve this, and never just being fully present in the moment. Even inheritance, what a ridiculous concept. I worked so hard my whole life to give someone else some cash, and I love my son, and my daughter, don't get me wrong. But I was teaching him about it the other day, and I said, I'm going to try my best to give you a good attitude. Yeah. Because then if I give you $0, you're going to be fine. If I give you $1 million, you're going to appreciate it, but you're not really going to care, because you don't care for money, which is just one of my big goals as a father, I think.
Yep.
To teach this kid that health is wealth and money is bullshit.
So you're going to have to spend it all before you die.
Yeah. Well, I'm encouraging
the best justification for it everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm going on this first-class holiday around the world because it's going to make you a better person.
Yeah. But yeah, the podcast is called The Power of Awareness, and my co-host is a mutual friend, Alana Dales. I spoke to her.
You do well to get a word in.
She's funny, isn't she? So she's got stage 4 bowel cancer, and when I first posted about my bowel cancer, she reached out, and we've become best mates. It's been so nice. We chat every week.
Yeah, and become quite a powerful force for good.
This morning I spoke to her, and she's on a new trial of immunotherapy, which is sort of like building your immune system up to heal the cancer rather than chemotherapy where it breaks it down.
Yep.
And she just got a result. She's had her 3rd session, and she just got her results from that, and her tumor markers have gone up. And she was worried, but the oncologist said, this is a good thing because your cancer at the moment is going through a last little burst of energy before it dies. And what cells do, and I've seen this, I'm just bringing this up because it happens to cancer and all the cells in our body, but it also happens to plants, and it happens on a macro level as humans. And it's kind of made me realize how much a part of planet Earth that we are.
Yeah.
So those cells are going through apoptosis, or it's cell suicide, which all the cells in your body do except for cancer. Cancer can't do it. It just keeps replicating. So they give you these drugs to force this programmed cell suicide. So they're giving off a last little effort of energy to try and gift it out to the other cancer cells that are around them. And I saw this in our garden at the winery once. We had a leucodendron planted on really bad soil. It's a really clayey hill, and I wanted to do a garden there. And I put a leucodendron in, and it was the only thing that really boomed, and it had these big fluorescent yellow, beautiful flowers, and it was sucking in all this energy, and then it just died. And then everything else started to grow. And there's a lot of science behind it now that when a plant, sees that other plants are struggling, it will go through apoptosis. It'll suck in that energy, and then it will gift it out to the others so that Mother Nature can kick on. And then with humans, and Callum, you said you've lost a mate to suicide, but a lot of people, and I don't know if it happened with him, are very happy and cheery before they actually commit suicide. It's because they've made the decision. This is anecdotal, by the way. This is my theory. They've made the decision that they're going to do it months before, and they're satisfied. They're happy with that decision. So they're at peace, finally at peace. And then they're giving off that energy to all the people around them so that those people can then cope with the suffering that's going to come from them doing that. But they've sort of freed themselves from their thoughts, but they've also gone through what I think is apoptosis on a more macro level. So it's a gift in a way.
That can be true in some cases. Again, a pretty hard one to square with people, but if you've been through it, some would be able to relate to that sort of thinking. And of course, that plays into why it's often such a shock, because that makes people seem like they're fine and seem like they're doing okay. And in some cases, like you said, that can be because they've actually accepted what they're going to do and things have gone past the point of being dark. And that's one of the things that makes it so insidious.
Yeah, it's full on, isn't it? But,
yep, life is full on, but I mean, amazing insight.
Yeah. And there's
thank you.
And there's only going to be more suffering as well. But I think suffering is evolutionary.
Suffering is
as
being
well.
human.
Yeah, suffering is being human. So part of our podcast is to help people develop the tactics to get through that suffering, and that all the people that we talk to say to talk about it.
Yep.
You know, and people are out there to help. So, and that's what we need to do for each other. But yeah, try not to be afraid to ask for it.
Yeah, and you don't have to suffer alone.
Yeah.
So take us out with a reason to be hopeful.
A reason to be hopeful. I think Mother Nature doesn't make mistakes. So everything happens so gradually that there's just no chance that she can make a mistake. And we are Mother Nature. So we're meant to be here. We're absolutely perfect the way we are. We don't need to strive to be something different. And we need to, I think we all have a universal purpose. And it's one thing that only humans have the ability to do. And that is to just witness beauty. And there is so much beauty in this world. You know, there's no zebra that looks at a sunset and thinks, wow, look at that sunset. It's just us. And we can do those things and we can connect. And the most beautiful thing, I think, is human beings.
And we can share it.
And we can share it, yeah. Yeah, they're not talking to their mates saying, check this out.
No. They're just saying, it's dark, the lions are coming.
And that sunset, that's our wine. If it's farmed the right way, and it's made the right way with the right intentions, then we're good. If you're making alcohol to make money, then you need to leave this industry.
Yeah.
That's my final message. Where's the camera?
Down the camera, but it's beauty that's easily shared.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for listening. Head to the Wine Grape Council of South Australia website for links and further resources. This is part of a bigger conversation, so feel free to share this podcast with your mates and look after yourselves. Cheers.